Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and CEO of AUVSI, Brian Wynn.
Good morning. How's everybody feeling? Good. Good day. First day was good, right? Was it good? I thought so too. You know, I was trying to figure out how to capture the first day, and I realized, well, that's easy. We'll do it the way we do it at the board of directors level. We've got 4 goals in AUVSI: advocacy, education, market growth, and member service. So this platform, even though we're expending enormous amounts of resources, your time, the money, all of this thing, the lights, the show, et cetera, this is what we do all year long, right? This is what we get everybody in one place to do it at Exponential. And if I measure up against those goals, you can see that I think it's working out really well. Day 1 was great. Day 2 is going to be great as well. I want to start by just doing a couple of things here, just capturing those things. I mean, Jim Cantore, who's back today, he's going to have a great entrance today. I'm looking forward to that. Chris McGough is back as well. We've got a phenomenal number of keynote speakers that are going to add tremendous value to this session. Yesterday we did women in diversity and robotics as an example, just some of the things I was able to tag up with. We opened the show floor, which, I don't know, I think the show floor is amazing. It's a little bit bigger this year, but for me it was just contact sports out there. As Colonel Plummer said to me from JIDO, he said, you got to square your shoulders on this thing. NBC and Fox News are here along with a number of other media outlets, so I think we're tagging up, we're getting the word out. A lot of social media going on. We were trending number 2 yesterday on Twitter, like the Marines, happy, not satisfied, want to be number 1. We're climbing toward record levels of attendance right now, and you can feel the energy in the hall. So that's really exciting, and I think we're off to a great start. So today, I want to start with something that I really enjoy doing, and that's just acknowledging some people in the membership. And I'm going to start with our chapters. How many of you participate in AUVSI chapters? Okay, that's not enough, right? I'm looking out there and I don't see every single hand raised. So from my perspective, you're not getting all the value out of your AUVSI membership. So before you get out of here, think about, where's your local chapter or where's your regional chapter, and how can you participate in that? So we've made great strides with our chapters in the last year. We've reprioritized the chapters. We've tried to understand better how they can serve our members and how they fit into those 4 goals. This included hiring a full-time staff member to support our chapters. Amanda Bernhardt is here, and she's dedicated to that. Amanda, can you show yourself somewhere? Those of you who know Amanda, she is incredibly dedicated to this, very committed. We've been expanding the programs that we offer to our chapters to help to support them, and it's a very robust network, and it's getting bigger domestically and internationally as well. So this is really the foundation of AUVSI. This is how we get to the grassroots, and grassroots advocacy, of course, is extremely important given all the things that are going on, particularly at the state and the municipal level. On Monday, we held our annual Chapter Leader Summit, and the leadership converged in one room to discuss their challenges and to look at what was working and how to share that information with one another among fellow leaders. I was in that room. I had the privilege to address those chapter leaders, and I can tell you it was a very affirming conversation. They're really working very, very hard to bring you, the members, value. And I honor them because they're all volunteers. In many ways, the chapters feel a lot like AUVSI at the very beginning when some guys got together at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and launched this thing that we now call AUVSI. We handed out chapter awards, and we've expanded those this year. It used to be just, a giant competition for Chapter of the Year. And so we've now got different ways, some additional ways to acknowledge our chapters, and I think very, very appropriately so. And I'd like to take a few minutes just to let you know what those awards are and who we gave them to this year. The first award was for chapter communications, and it went to AUVSI Spain, which was amazing. I actually had the opportunity to go over and participate in their first event. But even though I can't understand what they're tweeting out and what they're sending out twice a month, they're doing a great job communicating to their members. So well done, AUVSI Spain. The next award was for development, and that went to the San Diego Lindbergh chapter. Go ahead. Our chapter recruitment award went to the Louisiana Pelican chapter. And then our chapter leader of the year award, I'm pleased to say, went to Peter Blocker, the past president of the AUVSI Pathfinder chapter, which is down in Huntsville, Alabama. And the Pathfinder chapter, which I've also been able to visit, just does a great job. Peter has been the president for many years, and he's just recently stepped down. Before that, he was first vice chairman, et cetera, et cetera. So he's dedicated literally years to that chapter, and the results show. So we were able to honor Peter at that event as well. So, and finally, and most importantly, the Chapter of the Year award went to the AUVSI New England chapter. And all of the chapters do a great job. New England in particular did a very, very good job under the leadership of Wasim Naqvi of reaching out to, at the local level, Wasim and some of his colleagues actually testified and helped with the educational efforts that were going on at the state level. And I think in coordination with the headquarters staff, was able to deliver some tremendous value. So well done, AUVSI New England. As you know, the members are the lifeblood of this organization. This is the business model. You might think that putting on this trade show is our business model. It's not. This is one of the things that we do in support of those 4 goals. And we exist because of you members, so we're really excited. And this year, I'm particularly excited to recognize a special individual as our Member of the Year. And in order to do that, or to help me to do that, I'd like to bring out Michael Wilbur, who's the Director of Membership for AUVSI, to announce this year's winner. Where's Michael? Well, I'm going to announce the winner because that's my privilege. But Michael's going to help me with that. He's my Vanna for today. The 2017 Member of the Year is one of the most connected individuals in this field. If ever you want to know who to talk to anywhere in the world on a particular topic, particularly on a regulatory side, this is the guy to talk to. His commitment to the industry goes back 20+ years to his time inside of the FAA. He has a wealth of institutional knowledge and is a fountain of insight for all AUVSI staff, and always a tremendously generous person with his time. I can't think of a more worthy individual to receive this year's award. I am very, very pleased to welcome to the stage John Walker, the 2017 AUVSI Member of the Year. Johnny, I'm not sure where you just got back from, but I'm really delighted you're here.
It's good to be here, too.
Congratulations, my friend.
This part goes to Darrell Davidson also, because without Darrell Davidson, I would not be here today.
Well, Darrell Davidson is over in the foundation booth, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
he'll be pleased to hear that.
I appreciate it so much.
Let's do a grip and grin here. Awkward moment. Are we done?
No, I like it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. I like to call him Johnny Walker. Congratulations to all the 2017 award winners. Okay, let's get this going. It's my great pleasure again to welcome Jim Cantore to the stage. Where's Jim? Anybody see Jim? Oh yeah, I heard something about a special entrance. There he is.
All my friends know the low rider. The low rider.
Wait, is he driving that from the right seat? I don't think Jim is driving that. I see both his hands. How fun is that? Ladies and gentlemen, a man who knows how to make an entrance, Jim Cantore from the Weather Channel.
Anybody else come to work in an autonomous vehicle this morning?
Well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
I saw both of your hands. I don't think you were driving that vehicle.
I was not driving that vehicle. I'll take 2 of those, by the way.
Very
if you
good.
don't mind. I'll take 2 of those.
All right,
Oh
we're going to
my
get that
gosh.
recharged for you right now.
Thank you, sir.
Stage is yours. Jim Cantore.
Guys, when I was coming out here, I was thinking to myself, I wonder how many people in this room actually had a hand in that. You know, whether it be late nights with calculus and physics and everything else and all the intricate details that have to go into that. But it's got to be really cool to see the fruits of your labor kind of come together like that. So just huge. A huge thank you to Autonomous Stuff for the ride in the Polaris Jim. Jim brought Jim up to the stage. How cool is that? Now you know why they had me here. Welcome back, guys. It is day 2 of Exponential. Let's have another round of applause, by the way, for the AUVSI award recipients. That's just awesome. A lot of hard work there. I hope everybody enjoyed the networking reception yesterday, sponsored by New Air Alliance. That was a good time to be had by all. And obviously, if you got time in the expo hall, you're just blown away like I was. So I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit about my day there. I got to set this first story up with the issue with the weather enterprise. It's a big issue that we face. And one of the biggest challenges, certainly as I go toward the tail end of my career, how do we get the message out where people understand it? What do they get? What are they latching on to that makes them react to protect themselves and their families? That's the question we got to deal with right now, because people aren't taking things serious. We know a lot more about weather. Weather prediction is better, but yet people aren't taking them serious. So let's go back to 2008. We had a hurricane, a big one, that came across Cuba, thank goodness, because it took the wind out of its sails, so to speak. But it was still huge. Hurricane Ike. You may remember it. Came into the great state of Texas, right around Galveston, as a Category 2. The problem is, it had a huge wind field. And they had storm surge in Florida. The mayor of Gulfport, Mississippi called me and he goes, Cantore, I got 8 feet of surge on US 90. What's going on? The thing's going into Texas, right? So I ran into this wonderful young lady. Her name was Athena Masson, who was getting her PhD from the University of Toronto. PhD in meteorology, by the way. And she was telling me about this talk she's going to give in Kansas City, which I'm going to be at next month. It's an AMS Broadcasters Conference. And she's like, we were talking about this very subject, about how we, form and reform the enterprise to get everybody to buy in to our message. And she's like, well, maybe instead of bringing in new stuff, we kind of rework the old stuff. And I started thinking, oh, maybe she's onto something, because I remember how many people came up to me and said, oh, I'm not leaving, it's only a Cat 2. I'm not, why do I have to leave? It's only a Cat 2, we can deal with that. We're tough, we're Texans. But if it was a Cat 4 from the new refurbished Saffir-Simpson scale, even though it's a wind scale, maybe more people would have paid attention to that. And I thought, what a bright young lady. So, yeah, exactly. So I was just so blown away by that, and I can't wait to hear her talk. And that, maybe that's the way to do it. Go back, look at what we go out with in terms of a message, and how do we get that better with people. So I'm walking around in the room, and I see this video playing. I'm like, holy smoke, what the heck is that? It looks like a ground robot walking on ice and snow. So that obviously caught my eye, right? And it was. They had a video, Ghost Robotics, of this robot walking on ice and not falling on its face like you and I would. And I was like, how does it do that? Well, their reaction time is about 1/1000th of a second. I'm like, yeah, they do a better job than humans do, especially on ice. No walking like a penguin. And then I started thinking, all right, that's all cool, but how does that relate to the weather enterprise? Well, those things, they look like big spiders. What if they could go into a debris field afterward, especially after a big tornado, and actually look for people? All right, because this thing writes itself, it goes up walls and flips and flops, and it rewrites itself. What a great application for both of our worlds, right? As I was walking back from yesterday's Mind Blow Expo Hall. I ran into Holly Apker with Harris, and Harris used to have a broadcast division, so I remember Harris Systems. And so it kind of caught my eye with her tag, and I was asking her what she's here for. And she was telling me how they use drone technology to identify problems, especially with power lines. Because they've got all this equipment on standby, but yet they don't know when to get it in or where the problems are. So they use a lot of drone technology for that. Then she goes, Jim, listen to this. Florida's revenue is $900,000 an hour when the power's on. And so you can see how important that is to Florida. And of course, I'm thinking, you also got an elderly population in Florida, as well as people that come visit. So it's nice to get the power back on there, because typically after a hurricane, it gets pretty hot and pretty humid. But a way to get power on using drone technology after a hurricane or a tropical storm comes in. So some cool stuff from my day at the Expo Hall, and even out of the Expo Hall. Remember, guys, get social. Use the hashtag AUVSI Expo to keep the conversation going. And if half of you, I'm going to say an eighth of you, Instagram out or tweet out or Facebook out the shot of me coming down the hall there in the autonomous vehicle, it's going to probably blow everything up. So we may get number one, like Brian was asking us to. Be sure to stop by the Member Lounge in the Expo Hall next to register for your opportunity to visit with our graphic facilitator, Jim Nuttall. He's over there to my left again. Make sure you want, if you go and talk to Jim, maybe your vision will be documented on the interactive timeline. How you doing there, Jimmy? What do we got? He's already, look at him. He's already about a quarter of the way through that thing. Just cranking it out. Hey, we've got an absolutely jam-packed keynote lineup for you this morning. And to help us get prepped for day 2 of the Exponential Experience and this morning's speakers, please welcome Chris McCoff back to the stage. Hey, buddy.
How you doing, brother?
You need to ride in that thing.
Yesterday we came out here and we asked you, what should we be talking about? What should we be focusing on? The people at AUVSI believe that you are the experts, and so we gave you an opportunity to tell us, and you told us, we should be talking about unmanned operations over people. We should have a conversation about that. The second thing, you told us a lot, but this was the major trends. The second thing you said is the relationship between privacy, public acceptance, and trust. And that was about 9 o'clock in the morning. At 12:15, several people from this room met and joined 5 other teams and had in-depth conversations, moved the knowledge needle a little forward. It was captured by Jim Nuttall and available to you now. Marshall McLuhan was right. There are no passengers on spaceship, all things unmanned, just crew. We're the crew. So we're going to do it again. We're going to ask you to shape this conference. Here's the deal. Phones out. Let's lock and load on this. 22333 is who you text to. And the message we need you to send to get in is XPO17. Raise your phone when you're in. I want to see all the phones. This is an open-ended question we're going to ask you today. Raise them high when you're in. It's coming, it's blooming. I guess some of you don't have smartphones yet. Oh, there they go. Okay, you ready? Okay. In 3 or 4 words, or 5 or 6, you tell us the subjects that you want to hear more about. And the AUVSI staff is committed to taking that input and making audibles where we can address things deeper during this particular Exponential 2017. They'll incorporate your feedback right now into what's going on the rest of 2017, and it will shape the 2018 Exponential. So, here comes the answers. Search and rescue, drone use in local government, counter UAS, we heard a lot about that yesterday, risk and compliance of UAVs. So there's people back there now that are going to, there's 7,000 of you out here. There's people out there, back there that are going to pattern this information. We'll make the audibles on what we can during this conference. And we'll use that information to adjust the rest of the year and, of course, 2018. Thanks for that. Now, yesterday also, we outfitted you with Charles Handy's S-curve, and we wanted to know, where are we on this? And we also outfitted you with the innovation adoption curve. 59% early adopters, massive multiplying effect by this crowd on the world. Today, I've been asked to outfit you with powerful listening. Peak performance leaders have a discipline. They have a habit. And we want to show you what that habit is now and ask you to test drive this distinction for the rest of today and see how the world occurs to you differently. Here it is. Most people, perhaps yesterday, you went out into this great event and listened. But what came at you were three things: beliefs, stories, and facts. And they are not the same thing. Most of us don't parse this. We listen like that. It all comes at us. We don't bucket the information. Now, for those of you who are a little bit evolved and you actively listen, you might have bought the myth that you walk out in that world to get facts. You make meaning out of those facts by telling stories about those facts, and that generates your beliefs. I wish that was true, just the facts. I wish everything that we thought about in the scientific method and what we heard on Dragnet was true, but it's not. I've researched this. Every one of us here, the people on the expo floor and everyone in this audience, this is how it really works. We come into the world with beliefs about how things work and what is important. And those beliefs constrain the facts that we take in. And the fact that the facts are constrained by the beliefs allows us to tell stories that validate our beliefs. The beliefs are driving everything. Peak performance leaders understand that. And they're intensely curious about what the beliefs are behind what people are telling them. Peak performance leaders are always parsing beliefs from facts from stories. So let me just distinguish them. Facts, inherently true. A disinterested person could come up and observe and come to the same conclusion that you do. A fact. A belief, something that's held as a fact by someone, but might not be held by a fact by someone else. It's a belief. Now, the person who has this belief thinks it's a fact, but it is not a fact. The third thing is a story. And remember, you're the authors of the story, and you can author an infinite number of stories from any fact. You can author an infinite number of stories from any fact or set of facts. Whether you like it or not, that is what you're about to experience this morning from this stage. That's what you're about to experience on your breaks, out on the expo floor, and for the rest of your life. Three things are coming at you, and they are not the same. Peak performance leaders are very curious about beliefs because it sets the limit to the facts that are valued, and that sets in place the stories. I believe this is what causes wars, but this is also what causes innovations and breakthroughs. So I was asked to outfit you with this today and make one request. Today, and it is not easy, actively parse what you're hearing and ask yourself, what is this I am hearing? Is it this person's belief? Are they sharing a fact? Or are they telling me a story? Give it a try. We'll check back in with you through the day and tomorrow to see how that's going for you. Thank you very much. Jim, the man who gives lots of facts. There you go, brother.
Thank you,
sir.
Go get them, but be careful because they're listening for your beliefs now.
Yeah, well, the fact is, guys, is we have 3 great speakers coming up, okay? And I believe you will be wowed by these guys. Our lineup this morning kicks off with FAA Administrator Michael Huerta, okay? You start right at the top. Administrator Huerta is responsible for the safety and efficiency of the largest aerospace system in the world. He oversees a $15.9 billion budget, over 47,000 employees, and is focused on ensuring the agency and its employees are best prepared and trained professionals to meet the growing demands and requirements of the industry, in which there are many. He also oversees the FAA's multi-billion-dollar next-gen air traffic control modernization program as the United States shifts from ground-based radar to state-of-the-art technology. Yeah, in satellites. Please welcome Administrator Huerta to the stage. Have a good one.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here, joining you this morning here in the great city of Dallas. You know, I was looking back and thinking about the many years that I've been attending this gathering. This is actually my 4th visit to AUVSI. Now it's called Exponential, and it's amazing how much has changed just in that short period of time. You know, I'm starting to feel a little bit like that uncle, the one that shows up every Thanksgiving, talks about some of the same things over and over, talks about some stuff that's new. But the good news is this. The good news is that the story on unmanned aircraft is a story that bears a lot of repeating. It's a story about collaboration. It's a story about innovation. And I think most importantly, it is a story about a shared commitment to safety. And I sincerely hope that when my term as a FAA administrator ends in January, that the word cloud of the most used terms will include those words: collaboration, innovation, and safety. I've begun to look at these gatherings here at Exponential as a microcosm of the world of all things unmanned aircraft. I was able to walk around the convention hall yesterday, and I visited with a number of you, and the types of aircraft that we're all seeing, the capabilities that they possess, it's nothing short of amazing. Each and every year, there are new players, and these new players emerge with innovative new uses for unmanned aircraft, while I won't say the old players, I'll say the more established players add additional sophistication to what are incredibly popular products. Now, a few weeks ago, we at the FAA held what's become our annual Unmanned Aircraft Systems Symposium. We had about 84 speakers, 22 different discussions, and we held the first ever FAA Twitter chat in conjunction with that event, and people engaged with our content online thousands and thousands of times. More than 700 attendees from government, from the academia, from law enforcement, aviation, and technology participated there in person. Now, afterwards, I did an interview with someone, and I was asked what it felt like to be present at the birth of a whole new sector of aviation, a whole new industry. And I guess it's human nature. I certainly didn't think of it that way until the question came up. And I guess it's human nature to become so focused on the incremental stuff that we are doing day to day that we forget to take stock of how far we've actually come in a very short period of time. But it's true. In just a few short years, the unmanned aircraft community has evolved into a vibrant industry, and it's an incubator for ideas that are changing the way the world thinks about flying. It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about how drones might be used for aerial photography or package delivery. Now we're having very intense and very real conversations about a day in the not that distant future when a drone taxi might lift you above the rush hour traffic in a dense metropolitan area to make sure you get to that meeting across town on time. Now, clearly there's a lot to be done between here and there, but it's a there that has only come onto the horizon recently. Now, this pace of development is something that we talk about a lot. It's something that inspires a great deal of awe. You know, in the traditional aircraft industry, new jetliners are introduced maybe once every 10 or 15 years. In the world of unmanned aircraft, 10 or 15 new products might be introduced every year. So it's been certainly a great honor to be the FAA administrator during this whirlwind of imagination and of progress. I'm thrilled that my colleagues at the FAA have embraced a new way of thinking about how the government should respond to an industry that doesn't know how to slow down. We've learned to move quicker than ever to identify and to develop regulations that ensure safety without unduly stifling economic potential. Now, before joining the FAA back in 2010, I was the president of a major division of a Fortune 500 company with experience in fielding large technology and infrastructure platforms. So I understand the desire to move as quickly as we possibly can. And as you might imagine, I've had more than a few conversations with people who are frustrated that we aren't moving faster. But I've also talked to many who would like us to tap the brakes just a bit. But the good news is that we continue to make a lot of progress. But the unprecedented rate at which unmanned aircraft are evolving means that we have to grapple with new and complex questions that affect a broad spectrum of the many stakeholders that we have in this industry. Now, this is particularly apparent as we consider roles of government, the roles of the federal government, states, and local governments, and how they should play in this space. How do we ensure that unmanned aircraft operations can occur with a minimum amount of disruption and interference, particularly when we are moving into densely populated areas? In 2015, we issued some preliminary guidance, but it's an issue that's getting a lot of attention in state legislatures and in city councils all across the country. Now, this subject was a major focus last week during a meeting of our Drone Advisory Committee. Now, as FAA administrator, I have a very clear sense of what the existing FAA authorities are and our processes to ensure their compliance and to enforce the rules. But I think you would all agree that we need greater clarity as to what state and local governments would like to see and the role that they would like to play. It's an important question, and I think it's extremely important that we as a community get that right. Now, we have a few ideas on a way to approach the subject. The Drone Advisory Committee is doing great work in this area, and I hope in the near future to be able to talk about a concept that we're working with about how we might learn more about and that will enable us to answer this question. But this work on roles and responsibilities is only one of several key areas that we're looking at. For example, we're continuing our work on a rule for operations over people, and I know that's something that's of great interest to everyone in the room here. The FAA's Center of Excellence recently completed the first in a series of research projects looking at the potential safety ramifications of what might happen when a drone hits a person on the ground. Now, although we can't definitively answer every question, we are starting to understand the risks a little bit better. And the findings of this study are incredibly helpful. They help us as we continue to develop standards to ensure the level of safety that the public expects and deserves as drones become more ubiquitous in our daily lives. The next phase of the research is set to begin next month, and it will verify the results of the most recent study, as well as develop tests that manufacturers can use to certify their aircraft for flights over people. And later this summer, we expect to release the results of another study that looks at that question that we've seen in the news a lot: what happens if an unmanned aircraft collides with an aircraft? Now, the FAA is also collaborating with law enforcement and the military to examine security concerns, legitimate security concerns that they have raised in the world of unmanned aircraft. In late April, the FAA and our partners completed the 5th and final evaluation of possible drone detection systems just down the road at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Now, this most recent evaluation used a combination of technologies, including radar, radio frequency, and electro-optical systems. Now, we plan to use the information we've received from this test, the test in Denver and elsewhere, and other information to develop minimum performance standards for any unmanned aircraft detection technology that might be deployed around airports here in the United States. We also announced that we're setting up a new aviation rulemaking committee that will help us create standards for remotely identifying and tracking unmanned aircraft during operations. Now, I know there's a lot of interest in this group. It will be made up of a diverse group of stakeholders, and we hope the recommendations they produce will help pave the way in answering these questions of flights over people, beyond visual line of sight, and all of those things that are so important. Later this month, we'll also be hosting an unmanned aircraft security roundtable with senior transportation and national security leaders and representatives from the drone industry. Now, this forum will give us an opportunity to create a mutual understanding about the government's security concerns and to discuss how we can collaborate with industry to address them. Now, there's no question in my mind that the significant milestones we've achieved so far are because stakeholders from across government and industry have come together. They've come together to focus their energy on solving some of our most important challenges. A few minutes ago, I mentioned the Drone Advisory Committee, and I would particularly like to thank Brian Krzanich, the CEO of Intel Corporation. As you know, Brian has accepted our invitation to serve as the chair for the Drone Advisory Committee, and with his expertise in Silicon Valley, Brian's guidance and expertise have been absolutely indispensable to us. I'm also grateful to a number of other people from across the aviation industry, the drone industry, people who have agreed to help us as part of our DAC subcommittee and our task groups, and many of those members are here today, and I'd like to thank them for their commitment and for their leadership in working collaboratively to address these issues. You know, it seems like only yesterday that we were scrambling to develop the UAS registry in anticipation of what indeed was a boom in the sales of consumer drones. Today, more than 820,000 operators have registered their aircraft. Now, more than 745,000 of those are hobbyists, leaving 60,000 or so that are commercial operators of unmanned aircraft. We've issued more than 43,000 remote pilot certificates under Part 107 in the short time that it's been in effect. And at the same time, we're making it easier and faster when it comes to processing requests for Part 107 authorizations and waivers for those of you that are seeking to capitalize on new business opportunities. Last month, we published more than 200 facility maps to help streamline the authorizations in airspace around some of our busiest airports. These maps are an important next step in order for the industry and the FAA to work together to automate what has so far been a rather labor-intensive and sometimes a frustrating process. These maps help drone operators to improve the quality of the information in their Part 107 airspace authorization requests, and they help the FAA to process them much more quickly. Now, to be clear, the maps are informational and do not give people permission to fly drones, you still need to submit an online airspace authorization application. But for the first time, your request benefits from detailed grid maps that depict the distances above ground level that drones can safely fly. And in critical areas around airports and hospital heliports, these maps help us with the needed data to conduct the safety analysis that must occur before flights can be approved. And so we're shrinking the time to approval, and we will shrink it further. Now, I've mentioned the word safety several times in the last few minutes, and I think as FAA administrator, it's something that I talk about a lot, probably a couple of hundred times a day. But I'm happy to see that both the industry and individual operators have joined us in embracing a culture of safety around unmanned aircraft. The vast majority of you recognize that even though you might be standing on the ground, you are, in fact, aviators. You've embraced the responsibility of operating in an environment that can be unforgiving of mistakes or of reckless behavior. And nevertheless, we do continue to receive reports on a daily basis from pilots who've encountered drones in places where they should not be, sometimes at altitudes well above 400 feet. In fact, not long ago, a pilot of a jetliner preparing to land right here at Dallas-Fort Worth reported encountering a drone at 10,000 feet just west of downtown Dallas. Now, the FAA is spreading the safety message, and we continue to make updates to our Before You Fly smartphone app, which was created to let people know where it's safe and where it's legal to fly. That app has been downloaded some 220,000 times. But all you have to do is go to YouTube and search for night drone flight or drone footage, put in any city. You'll find dozens of videos that still reflect a sobering lack of understanding of guidelines and of basic safety regulations. Now, so far, we've been fortunate that none of these incidents have resulted in an injury or in a collision with a manned aircraft. But safety shouldn't rely on luck. Safety needs to be intentional. And I'm grateful that the members of the Unmanned Aircraft Safety Team have accepted the challenge of finding effective ways of promoting safety throughout this industry. Now, I doubt that many people will disagree that education is an important part of the safety equation, but I firmly believe that the answers to many of this industry's remaining challenges lie in the one trait that has defined it since its beginning, and that's your ingenuity. Throughout our system, particularly in the last 30 years or so, the real advancements in safety have come through technology. Wind shear detection is now available in the flight deck of every modern jetliner, as are collision avoidance systems. We have incredibly sophisticated radar systems that harness GPS databases to predict a plane's flight path and to warn a pilot if a flight is descending toward terrain. As a result, aviation is safer than it has ever been, and new technologies continue to drive the risk out of the system on a daily basis. I'd argue that the same will eventually be true of commercially available unmanned aircraft. Someday, one of you will invent an unmanned aircraft that will be incapable of colliding with anything, whether it's a tree, a building, a person, or an aircraft moving at several hundred miles an hour. This aircraft will know exactly how fast and how high it can go, no matter where the operator may want to fly it. And at the same time, it will broadcast its position to air traffic controllers, perhaps to other operators, lending situational awareness that could clear the way for even more diverse operations. How far away is that? Some speculate we might be several years away. Some speculate, and I think we could just as easily say it might be a whole lot less than that. But if there's one thing that aviation has taught us, It's that innovation has a way of compressing time. In the meantime, our job is to capitalize on each incremental step, making sure that we build a framework of performance-based regulations that can easily accommodate change. From its earliest beginnings, aviation has attracted a potent combination of dreamers and doers, and monumental achievements can occur in the space of one person's lifetime. Orville Wright, whose first flight at Kitty Hawk reached a breathtaking speed of 10 miles per hour across the ground, well, he lived to see Chuck Yeager break the sound barrier and usher in a new age in aviation. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh proved it was possible to fly all the way from New York to Paris without stopping. 42 years later, Charles Lindbergh was a guest at Cape Canaveral when Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins climbed atop a Saturn V rocket and set out for the moon. Innovation does indeed have a way of compressing time. As I was walking through the convention hall yesterday, I recalled my childhood in Southern California. Back then, I had a toy aircraft, and it was tethered to a control yoke. I stood in the center and watched it fly around me, tethered there, while I moved it up and down. I thought it was pretty amazing. Well, today, the technology exists to allow us to make our own giant leaps. And the descendants of these small aircraft are now poised to make the world a better place. And the only limitation seems to be one thing: how quickly we, all of us across the industry, can make it happen safely. And I know that this industry will continue to rise to that challenge. So I thank you for what you're doing each and every day to harness innovation and to make this a great and safe place to fly. Have a great conference.
Well done, sir. Well done. Wow. Our next keynote is Speaker Dirk Hoke. He is the CEO of Airbus Defense and Space. Mr. Hoke is a member of the Airbus Group Executive Committee. He joined Airbus Group from Siemens, where he had been the CEO of the Large Drives Business Unit since 2014. His career spans 21 years and 5 continents, and he speaks 4 languages. Please welcome Dirk Hoke to the stage. Go get him, buddy.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure to be here at the biggest trade show for unmanned technology and services. And of course, it's a pleasure for me to talk about the future of unmanned flight as Airbus sees it. And when you talk about Airbus, you probably expect things like this. This is what we do. We make things fly. This is a demonstrator currently as a demonstrator being built at our A-Cube in Silicon Valley. But it's more important, it's not only about this vehicle, because I think there are many new demonstrators currently built, but it's also how Airbus looks at the future of unmanned flight, and in order also to provide solutions for megatrends that we are facing today. One of the megatrends, urbanization, causes a lot of other problems like congestion. And when we look at today's traffic in the US, most of the commuters lose like 2 weeks in a year doing traffic. The worst is DC with more than 80 hours as an average. And we believe that the third dimension can provide solutions to it in the future. But what is more important, we don't only look at the vehicle part, we look also at the digital enabled services part. We look at how we can pool passengers, how we can provide on-demand dispatching of these kind of services. And of course, what is even more important, as you just heard in the previous presentation, is how to make it safely, how to provide these kind of services in the future safe, and according to aerospace certification and regulations. And this is something, of course, where we have the expertise and the knowledge in. But as I said, for us, it's more than just talking about vehicles. And this is maybe also completely new for a company like Airbus, that we look at the future of digital-enabled services to be integrated in these kind of offering. When we look at why we come in as Airbus at a AUVSI drone show, as you know, we are today a provider of military drones, but you have not seen us in the commercial space. And this is something we look at because if we look at where drones are used today, there are hundreds of different market segments. There are thousands of different companies working in this area. But it's very complicated for large-scale customers to find orientation in these markets and also to find global operating companies that can provide services from one hand. And this is one of the reasons why we're looking at this market segment. We look at how can we support global operating companies in providing services from one hand. Imagine an oil and gas company operating in more than 100 countries, having platforms all over the globe. Will they work with hundreds of different service operators for drone services? They don't, and they won't. And they're looking for companies that can give them large-scale operations safe and secure and give them support in their businesses. And this is something we look at. We believe that Airbus is a very strong brand, well recognized in the aerospace space segments with a good reputation regarding safety and regulation. And we're definitely able to provide certifiable aircrafts and platforms. Looking at how to provide aerial digital services, we do already, but not yet using drones. We use satellite data. Here you can see a satellite data displaying power lines. And what you can see, we have already all the analytics platforms in place in order to support the utilities to identify areas where they need to send their service technicians in order to, for example, here in this case, cut the trees and provide at early stage the service in order to make sure that there are no incidents. But in the future, we can easily extend that service, combine it with drone data, as you can see here from the same power line, a LiDAR picture from a drone, where you can then examine all the details of a transmission tower, if the insulators are working well, are there any other topics that need to be analyzed and monitored, or where utility needs to be sent. So we can easily combine existing technologies into new business models, what we have not done in the past. Again, another topic what many people don't know, we use satellite data already to provide services to agriculture companies. Here you see a Spot 6 image of a large farm area where you have highlighted certain parcels, which then provide data that can be directly transferred into an automation system of a tractor in order to do precision farming, in order to do precision spraying or application of fertilizer on the field. And what many people don't know, we have already 18,000 existing customers using this kind of technology supplied by Airbus through our different platforms. And tomorrow it can be easily enhanced, again, by drone services, making it a bigger business model, combining different technologies in order to be a better service provider for our customers. There are many other areas like disaster relief. After a hurricane, for example, we can use our satellite data in order to provide very fast overview about the area that is considered. And then based on that, we can send to specific locations drones in order to provide a detailed overview of the situation on the ground. Again, combination of different technologies on a service platform enables the customer to get a better service provided. But all that you heard in the previous presentation was about safety and regulation. And one thing we believe that regulation has to be continuously improved, and we don't want that someone gets hurt by a drone. And I think, therefore, we already work very seriously with a lot of certification bodies on air traffic management questions, how to identify drones, how to manage drones in a congested area in the future. And we have a lot of demonstrators working globally in order to find areas where we can improve these kind of services, and also in the future ensure that certified vehicles will be used in order to provide the service that I just mentioned. But the more important part is that we are offering a new kind of service in the future. And therefore, I brought a video which is brand new, which is just a new introduction of a new service into the market. And I would like to show this video before I explain the service in detail. Please play the video.
Satellite and drone technologies are expanding the boundaries of possibility. They are changing the way we manage our resources, the way we make decisions, and the way we connect to one another. Yet with the power of these technologies comes complex challenges to operate at scale, deliver rapid insights, and produce actionable data that solves real-world problems. But now, from a global leader in space and aeronautics comes a bold new solution. Airbus Aerial is a comprehensive digital service bringing together the benefits of small drone technology, high-altitude unmanned aircraft, existing Airbus satellite infrastructure, and customized software to manage data capture and analysis, providing truly actionable data to customers. This new service utilizes every layer of the data capture infrastructure, delivering a holistic view of high-quality imagery and sensing solutions for a wide array of industry applications, providing deep insights through a customized software infrastructure that delivers analytical tools and rapid access to reliable information, empowering customers to make decisions and solve real-world problems. Imagine a future where the world is connected in times of need. A future where the next generation of logistics brings us closer together. A future where organizations have the insights they need to make decisions faster, reduce costs, and improve the lives of their customers. This is the future of digital services. This is Airbus Aerial.
So this is a world premiere for us, because normally what we do is we develop things very thoroughly and then we go public. Here we do it slightly differently, because this is going to be an ecosystem where we want to partner, where we want to invite software developers, where we want to invite hardware producers to join us on that journey and create that ecosystem together in order to be able to provide global services for critical industries, for global operating customers in a way that no one has achieved so far. So what we have to bring to the table, we have existing technologies that can be used, like being able to provide satellite data from our own satellites or from GEO and LEO. We have very soon high-altitude pseudo satellites being able to provide connectivity or to provide images from the stratosphere. And of course, being able to develop our own hardware platforms for UAV services. But it doesn't mean that we have to do everything ourselves. What we believe is that there are so many existing companies that are covering small parts of the total ecosystem that can be joining forces with us in order to create the ecosystem that will supply these global services in the future. We're currently building up the software cloud, the Airbus cloud, in order to provide these services in a more professional digital way. But in this area, where we'll have a public and a private cloud, we invite companies to be service providers for software applications, for data analytics services on that platform, on the data that we provide. Because we will host not only satellite pictures there, we will host data from all our different platforms in this platform, enabling us to provide new services that we have not done in the past. And of course, also looking at the current status of regulation, many of the vehicles used currently, successfully used in different vertical business models, they might continue for a certain while, but when regulation becomes tougher, I think our expertise in certification of aerospace platforms can be a valuable contributor for cooperation in order to certify vehicles, in order to be part of that ecosystem in the future. So this is really the invitation to companies in the software and in the hardware area to team up with us in the future and build up that platform. We're going to test already certain verticals still this year in order to be sure that we can scale the business very fast. And as you all know, at the end, it's about scaling business, creating a global operating business, and in many areas, clarify how we can solve customer problems that no one else has solved before, or solve it at a better, more competitive price than in the past. So for us, it's very important to team up here, to find the right partners, and to accelerate the global reach of operation for the Airbus aerial platform. Jesse Kalman is the new president of our US operations, and many of you know him, as I've seen yesterday. So he and his team are here at the booth today and are happy to discuss with you how cooperation, long-term partnership can look like in this new Airbus aerial ecosystem. And I'm also looking forward to work with many of you in the future, and hopefully next year, when we come back to the AUVSI, that we can present in detail existing business models, existing hardware and software platforms that will convince you that this is the way to go. And this is why Airbus, even at a late stage, steps into the commercial arena of the unmanned flight and the unmanned digital services. So thank you for your attention. Looking forward to cooperation discussions. I will still be around till later this day, and I hope that I can see many of you later at our Airbus booth. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great talk, Dirk. Our final keynote speaker this morning is Brian Chappel. He is the Sector Vice President and General Manager of Autonomous Systems for Northrop Grumman. Mr. Chappel oversees all of Northrop Grumman's unmanned programs. He most recently served as Vice President of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter Program for Aerospace Systems Military Aircraft Systems Division. Prior to this role, Mr. Chappel was the Vice President and Business Manager for Advanced Development Programs, where he supported a diverse set of air and space development programs, including the Unmanned Combat Air System Demonstration Program. Please welcome Brian Chappel to the stage. Welcome, Brian. You bet.
Good morning, and I'm not Mr. Chappel. That is definitely my father. I'm Brian, all right? So let's talk about the next big thing. I think you saw the video this morning. That is a video we're proud of at Northrop. It represents a long history, but I'm not really here to talk about what Northrop is doing. I'm really here to talk about the industry. I'll use some examples from Northrop that we have, and you'll see a few slides here, but I'm not gonna be flying any drones in. I can't fit a Global Hawk, a new Global Hawk in here. So you're just gonna have to pay attention to me for a few minutes, and we'll get through this. But we're gonna talk about something, and I'm gonna give you actions, but I'm gonna be a part of it with you. We've got a lot of opportunity in front of us here in this set of industries. It's not just one industry, obviously. We've got capability, technologies, things that we all want to do. I know from the polling that was done yesterday, this is a group full of innovators, of people who want to do the next big thing and do a whole set of next big things. So how do we go do that? Well, first let me just stop and test this a little bit. I can see you, all right? So who's interested in doing the next big thing? Are we really going to be doing the next big thing, or are we just going to talk about it and maybe kind of come to a show every once in a while? I'm into the next big thing. That's why I'm here. I hope all of you guys are too. Well, okay, a few. So I'm backing this up. I've joined the AUVSI board because I think it's important. It's important not just to my business, but I think it's important to the world. The things that we do, the missions that we're able to do, the capabilities that we're able to bring to people in the world are important, but we can't take it for granted, and there are a lot of things that we need to do to make them happen. So I'm just going to really kind of hit three different elements of this. Talking about a future of autonomy, how do we shape and define that future? What is it? What does it look like? How do we navigate our way through that future? There's definitely some barriers. And then what are the actions that I'm going to ask you and take on myself that we all need to do to make sure that we realize all the opportunities in front of us? So let's get on. Let's start talking about the next big thing. I think to start talking about the future, it's always helpful to get a little perspective and maybe look a little bit backwards. 90 years ago, this month, Spirit of St. Louis, first transatlantic nonstop solo flight. I'm proud to be a part of a company that Ryan is part of Northrop Grumman now. And it's amazing when you think back. I mean, we almost take it for granted now. You can go anywhere in the world very, very easily. But what a huge deal that was 90 years ago. Innovation, commitment, focus, crazy people that, could do things and took on challenges. I mean, literally risking their lives. That's real commitment. So that's the type of innovation that I think I feel here, although I didn't see anybody risking their lives, that's good. The way that we can move this forward, though, is really to keep talking about the types of things, the missions, the capabilities that we're able to bring. And that's that future that I think we want to try to get to. Now, as I said, I'll use some of our products as an example, but you can apply it to your own situation and think about what you do and where you could go. And what you did last year is probably different than what you're going to do next year. And it's almost unimaginable what will it look like in 10 years. But for us, 20 years ago, when we started off with that beautiful bird called a Global Hawk, we thought it was doing one thing for the military, and boy, were we wrong. We have found lots of different things, and we continue to find every day new missions. You heard Jim yesterday mention his visit to see the NASA Global Hawks and what they do. The thought of being able to track and provide safely the type of data and information that improves forecasting around dangerous storms, that's a real world difference, that's a future, and that's being enabled by autonomy. We needed to do more, of course, though. 30 hours in the air is great, and that's what the system can do. It can fly over natural disasters, it can do things safely that you wouldn't want pilots in the way of. It overflew the Fukushima nuclear disaster and provided imagery as well. Again, all things that we never thought of when the system first came online. So that's where we are today. We keep looking and finding other missions as we go through it. We have a group of incredibly talented and energetic employees, and we occasionally challenge them. We'll put an innovation challenge out, give everyone a few weeks, and do something really hard. So last year, we did a challenge working with the San Diego Zoo, who have a very difficult time tracking polar bears as sea ice melts in the high north, in the Arctic. And we created a challenge that said, okay, we need to work with the zoo, get a system out there that can follow the polar bears, help them track. You've seen, if you go by our booth, you'll see the model, you'll go, wow, man, Northrop, you're kind of going backwards if that's what you're doing now. But no, that was a drone that a group of employees made in about 8 weeks, and then took it to the far north in Canada, working with the San Diego Zoo. And we didn't save any polar bears this time out, but we're coming back this year. And we're also showing the San Diego Zoo the power of autonomy, something that they never thought of before. Before it was helicopters and airplanes and expensive and dangerous. It's hard to mount a campaign with that type of equipment in some of these locations. So we're helping them understand what autonomy can bring to their mission. And in doing so, we're also learning the missions that we can take along. So scientific discovery is another one of those that we add in that we never really contemplated from the beginning. So where do we go from here? We've got a lot of capabilities. There's, whether it's the systems I'm talking about, the systems that you're working on, the missions, the customers that you're dealing with. There's lots of ways you can go. And I'll just say autonomy in general needs to be something that we just keep moving forward. You heard I run the Autonomous Systems Division. Last year, I changed the name. The division last year was called Unmanned Systems, and changed it to Autonomous Systems because really we wanted to make a statement to ourselves and to our customers. This is what we're about. This is where we're going, because I can't keep doing the missions that I want to be able to do, that I know we can do with the current state of the art. It just is not far enough along. So the incorporation of artificial intelligence, human-machine teaming, basically what we call cognitive autonomy, right? I know everyone starts making the Skynet jokes, but in some places we have to deal with that. But that's not how we view it. Autonomy in these types of systems is the type of capability that it should almost be seamless. A customer, a user, somebody is focusing on what do I need to get done, whatever that is, and what we're able to provide is doing it, and it's seamless. We've got to create a lot of technology to get there. In some ways, a lot of the systems that we do really aren't quite autonomous. I'll just say they're very efficiently and highly automated. So we've got to do better than that. Ultimately, the goal is to make sure that we're not replacing people, that old cliche. It really is about making things better for people. I'd rather have people safer, more engaged with the types of things that are important for them to work on. And if we can do that with our types of systems, by putting more intelligence into the systems, always making sure that the humans are in charge. That's absolutely a key tenet of anything that we do. When we do that, we're going to have capabilities. I don't care if it's in a high altitude aircraft or if it's in a car, something under sea, something in our devices that we use around the house. That type of autonomy is going to be incredible for us all. So there's going to have to be a number of things that we do, I think. And you know, it sounds like a great future. Technology, we can imagine all of this. It's almost here. But yet, even though Jim drove in a self-driving car today, that's not out there. It's not embedded in everything that we do. I'm disappointed. I still don't have my Amazon Prime Air drone deliveries going on. I know exactly where I'm putting my pad in my backyard, so I'm ready, Amazon, bring it on. And there are things that even we do in our business where we look at and we go, wow, they want a pilot to do that? Oh, my goodness. So clearly, it's not necessarily just technology, although we do need to do more with the technology to make it better. There are a lot of barriers, and I think we all face some form of them. Cultural. If you're dealing with a group of folks that are used to having people doing it, it's hard to shift them from people to unmanned to autonomous. How do we overcome those cultural barriers? There are structural elements. I mean, certainly incorporating some of these really game-changing capabilities and technologies are going to require infrastructure and investments. There's also, of course, the regulatory situation that you run into. So there's a lot of things that can trip the seeming inevitable progress of autonomy to make the world better. And yes, we do need to make sure the technology keeps moving along. I think we're getting to a tipping point, though. My son grew up, basically, I call him a digital native. He never knew a world where there was no internet. We had to explain to him, what dictionaries were and encyclopedias. That concept was really, really crazy. And of course, we all, with the phones that we have and the way the world operates right now, very, very digital. Everybody understands that. I think, and part of the challenge that I think we all need to undertake here is 20 years from now, this next generation needs to wake up and basically not even realize it, but they're autonomous natives. Autonomy has been incorporated in so much of their life, they don't even think about it. They understand it, it's there, it helps them, it makes them safer, better, more productive, whatever that is. And that's where we need to go. It's going to be a challenge. I think it's going to take everybody working on this. And as I mentioned, there's lots of barriers that we're going to have to overcome. And it's a big all-inclusive we. It's industry, it's academia, it's government, it's individual innovators. Everybody needs to be talking and working on how do we do this. Yeah, I look at academia, keep coming up with wonderful ideas, keep doing the things that are leading to new technologies. But I'll also say, please keep training and educating the types of individuals that we need to move autonomy forward. Sometimes in my industry, we have a tough time getting system engineers to help pull things together. Autonomy is a broad capability. You need computer scientists, engineers of all types, math. When you start talking about artificial intelligence, you start getting into human behavioral characteristics. This is truly a big, broad system engineering type of problem. And I think we need academia to step up and really focus to help us get those types of people working on the problems that we all want to solve. Clearly, government has a significant role working with us to make sure that we understand and can work through all of the things that need to be done so autonomy can be incorporated safely. But this world, this country has always stood for innovation and making sure that we innovate properly. And I'm confident that we'll be able to work through those types of regulatory things with the government and with AUVSI helping along the way. We're going to continue making progress there. And then finally, industry, big, small, little. We all just need to keep our head down, working with the technology, making sure we've got people focused on the right problems. And then we also need to keep our head up, looking around and making sure we know what's going on. I'm excited to be here because I get to see and interact with a bunch of people doing a bunch of things that look like they have no connection to my business, but I don't know, maybe they will in 2 years. Maybe they have an idea that I need to incorporate. I need to understand and not get trapped in my own worldview of what type of missions and capabilities are important for us. So that type of collaboration, that type of interaction amongst everyone, I think helps move us all forward together. So I started with who wanted to be a part of the next big thing. I certainly want to be a part of the next big thing. I want to be a part of a lot of next big things. I think this room can do a huge amount of next big things, all in your own areas. But we've got to deal with questions, and we've got to deal with some challenges. So, you know, we should be talking about what else do we need to do? How much further? How much energy do we have to put in it? What do we need to know? What aren't we working on now that we should be working on? Or are we drilling some dry holes? How do we work on cultural acceptance of autonomy? True story, in certain parts of the world, I have to use a second business card that says unmanned because autonomous is sort of a bad word. And I have to be sensitive to the customer's cultural acceptance of autonomy. I shouldn't have to do that. And if we do our jobs well, the world will benefit from autonomy. Keep innovating, always, always, always. Just keep plugging away. But what does that innovation look like? How do we do it? What do we need to do? Those are the types of discussions that need to interact. We saw Dirk out here. He's talking about stitching together a bunch of interesting capabilities and using and generating data in a new way. That's absolutely innovation. We all need to be thinking of things along those lines. So let me wrap up and say I'm committed to working with all of you so that we can all generate a next big thing in our own little world. But we're going to have to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about it. Please talk to me. Please talk to yourselves, your co-collaborators, anybody that you think that has an ability to weigh in and make a difference. We need to hear from you. We need to be working. AUVSI is going to be a big partner in this. You see the email up there. I want to hear from you so that we can talk, and we're going to make this an autonomous world, and it's going to be a bright one in the future. Thank you for your attention this morning. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Brian, great job, man. Great job. Guys, how about another round of applause for all of our speakers this morning? Just fantastic. It's kind of interesting when I think back for a second of all the things that come together, and each speaker I can relate to in my world too. So it's just been an honor to be here to be a part of this, and I want to thank you guys for letting me be up on stage and just geeking out with you, if you will. Hey, a little fun this afternoon. Join me at 4:15 for the Startup Showdown and Happy Hour. You're going to watch three companies: Inertial Sense, AUVSI Corporation, and also Y-Biotic. They're going to compete for 15 G's, $15,000. So come back. That sounds like a lot of fun. And be sure to check out the Texas UAS Summit. That's located in ballroom C1, C2. That kicks off at 10:30, so not too far from now. It's open to all badge holders and features an incredible lineup of speakers from the state of Texas and beyond. And who knows? Maybe we'll see Ross Perot there. You never know. This evening, be sure to get your cowboy boots ready and your chaps. I know you guys brought those with you. The mix starts at 7:30 at Gilley's in Dallas. Buses will be leaving, shuttle buses will be leaving at 7 p.m. All right, Expo Hall is open, exit to the left. Thank you for a great morning. Enjoy day two, ladies and gentlemen.